Very few people have the gift of influence. When they speak, people listen. When they stand up, people stand attention. This was true for General Douglas A. MacArthur. Not only did his words, um, or not only his actions shape history, but his powerful words made history every occasion he spoke them. In today's society, I'm unaware how MacArthur's intense choice of words would resonate with the public, but his passion for the United States and his military were obviously unmatched. And that's what I'd like to share with you. First, MacArthur's how he was a master of expression. Second, we'll examine the world's most famous goodbye speech. And third, and finally, you'll hear a bit of the speech that inspired the country. MacArthur was a master of expression. He left many food for thought rhetoric with what he used. First and foremost, parallelism, which are components grammatically similar to each other. So he would use this so people, civilians, would understand the same thing as a war vet would. He used the parallel between war and civilian life so there would be better understanding between both audiences. And MacArthur also used a lot of rhetorical devices exceptionally well, mainly figurative language, such as similes, which are vivid or emphatic comparisons using like or as, hyperboles, which are exaggerated statements not meant to be taken literally, personification, which he used to create a common enemy. He would use descriptive words so it would kind of sway you one way or the other. And repetition was also used very often. He actually repeats duty, honor, country 7 times. But he's also careful not to overuse it. He used a device called anaphors, which mixes up the repetition by replacing like words with the synonyms of it. So the audience doesn't get bored with the same message over and over again, changes it up a little bit. MacArthur is also an expert storyteller. Through rhetorical devices and tone, mainly, he spoke in a very, very low tone to increase emphasis and emphasize words. He also spoke at a very, very low pace for emphasis and pronunciation as well. But he was also a very, very emotional speaker, mainly because he caters to what he spoke. He would speak before battles, before wars, to soldiers. He'd also speak after tragedies, and he would speak to the civilians who are going through painful, tragic time. He also used experiences and imagery a lot, which is, he mentions death a ton in his speeches, to play on the emotions of the audience. But him and his speechwriter do this often to entice the audience as well. He was also able to motivate everyone he spoke to. For example, the rugby team at West Point went out and beat a ranked opponent as a new program immediately after his speech. And he also used drama to make his persona work. So MacArthur rarely went anywhere without his media crew, which was his own journalist to write articles about him, his own photographer, everything like that. And he liked to take pictures in a certain way. He knew how the light shone off his jaw. He knew how he looked, how he would look, have that powerful look. He also wanted to be documented in a particular way, so he had the journalist. And he also had a custom corn cob pipe called the 5-Star, which he actually rarely smoked, and he didn't actually smoke that often. It was just for show because it made him look like that rugged edge general that he wanted. He was also aware of the cameras were at all times in public. So the way he spoke, the way he looked, and who he turned to, he was aware of where the cameras were going to be so he could take the best photos of him. And for the world's most famous goodbye speech, the setting for the speech was one he was well familiar with. He spoke at West Point in the mess hall at a graduation ceremony. MacArthur's preparation for his speeches were very, very extensive. But with that said, he had a ghostwriter named William Adelman Gano, which was his longtime ghostwriter that he would take speeches from and change sentences and different phrases in to make it his own. But it was definitely Gano's speech. But he refused to mention his ghostwriter throughout his career. And he would also practice a ton. MacArthur would practice a ton of the speeches to make it look like it was an extempt or an improvised speech to make it seem more powerful. He practiced it 1,000 times. Actually, in his speech, he looked at his wife and he thought it was for a specific purpose to make it look more exaggerate the tone, but it actually wasn't. He forgot what he was going to say. But the speech he gave, the official reason he gave this speech was to accept the Thayer Award, which is known as the Father of the Military Academy. given to West Point graduates to exemplify the term duty, honor, country. Unofficially, he was actually saying his goodbyes. He loved West Point cadets. He called them his boys in gray. But he also knew he was dying. When he gave the speech, he was actually 80. And 2 years later, he died from biliary cirrhosis. And but MacArthur loved West Point. He was a former cadet from 1899 to 1903, and he was the superintendent of West Point from 1919 to 1922. In attendance to the speech, it was mainly cadets, graduates actually, some high-ranking military officials were there, and also cadets' families were there. Yes, so the speech is actually broken down into 5 parts. The witness of fortitude, swift and sure attack, what the words teach, the profession of arms, and the prayers of peace. So I'd like to leave with you a few words you would have heard from that day in 1962. As I was leaving the hotel this morning, a doorman asked, "Where are you bound for, General?" And when I replied, "West Point," he remarked, "Beautiful place. Have you been there before?" Duty, honor, country. Those are the 3 words that dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, and what you will be. They are your rallying points to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. Unbelievers say they are but words, but these words build your character, make you strong when you are weak, give you a heart that is clean and a goal that is high. They teach you to laugh, yet never forget how to weep. They teach you to be an officer and a gentleman, but what sort of soldiers are those to lead? The American soldier is one of the world's most noblest figures. He has written his history in red on his enemy's breast, in 20 campaigns on 100 battlefields, around 1,000 campfires. I have witnessed this patriotism. I do not know the dignity of their birth, but I do know the glory of their death. They died unquestioning, uncomplaining, and on their lips, duty, honor, country. The soldier above all other people prays for peace. For he must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war, but always in our ears ring the ominous words of Plato, the wisest of all philosophers. Only the dead have seen the end of war. As future officers, you stand as the nation's guardian, its lifeguard, its gladiator. Yours is profession of arms. If you lose, a nation will be destroyed. The public service must be duty, honor, country. The shadows are lengthening for me. The twilight is here. My days of old have vanished. The dreams of things that were, in my dreams I hear again. The crash of guns, the rattle of musketry, and a strange, mournful mutter of the battlefield. But in the evening of memory, I always come back to West Point. Always duty, honor, country. Today marks the final roll call with you, but I cross the river, my last thoughts will be with the corpse, and the corpse, and the corpse, and I bid you farewell. We've touched on how MacArthur was a master of expression, the world's most famous goodbye speech, and the speech that inspired a country. Although he did use a ghostwriter, his speeches were often ghostwritten, the skills MacArthur possessed that made his speech influential and a staple in military values for years to come were his own. His cool, calm, and relaxed manner he carried himself in speeches were with such heavy content exemplifies his success as a leader and in the face of adversity in World War II. He commanded respect through his words and earned it through his actions.